Breakdancing was created in the Bronx borough of New York City in the early 1970s. Kids heard hip-hop breaks being laid down by DJs at parties and park jams and took their dancing to the floor. Eventually, this dance, associated with more than just crazy spins on the ground, made its way to the UK.
People basically had nothing to do, so a lot of kids just started messing around, and then this culture forms, right? Which we eventually call hip hop, which consists of like breaking, graffiti, rapping, and DJing. And then this thing gets packaged up in the 80s. And the first New York City rap tour, which is what it was called, was in 1982, and it went to France. In early 83, it came to the UK, or the late 82, it came to the UK. So that's how we were exposed to like the culture of hip hop.
One of the most famous crews that came out of the early breaking boom in 1984 was from right here in Bournemouth, and they went by the name of Second to None.
Second to None formed from, there was an amalgamation of 2 or 3 crews in Bournemouth back in sort of 84, 85, and there was Universal Rockers, Shock City, and another crew called South Style. And what happened was the best members were cherry-picked from all of these crews to make a super crew. It was the idea of one of the members of Shock City to do this, and the name Second Son was thought up, and then it was just all the best members.
The South Coast was a hotbed for breaking talent in the 80s. Jams were everywhere across the country, as breaking fever had taken over, with Second to None dancing wherever they could find space in the town.
There's a few youth clubs used to go to at that time, you know, when you're about 15, you go to various youth clubs. And then also the main place was in the town centre. There was a club called Madison Joe's, which is, I think, reopened. The venue's reopened as far from the Manning crowd. Anyway, that was a Saturday afternoon session, started in 1984. And we always used to go down there every Saturday afternoon and just break in the very early times, you know, 84, 85, and they'd always be packed, for one thing, always be really good atmosphere, lots of energy, lots of breakers. What you'd get in those days is you'd get a lot of breakers would go to from other places. So if you had a jam, wherever it was, you'd get a lot would travel from other places to go there and battle.
But in 1987, the initial rage had subsided, and most crews packed up. It wasn't cool to break anymore, and the art form was relegated to being just another fad that people threw away once they had their fun with it.
It was like people were a bit like sheep, and it was like they all gave up because everyone else gave up. What, would you jump off the pier because everyone else jumped off a pier? It was like, and we'd never stopped, but it was always like, oh yeah, we gave up because everyone else gave up. You know, it's like, well, you never had to give up. It's like we carried on even when there was no one doing it.
Because they never stopped, despite people calling it cheesy and telling them to grow up, they played a pivotal role in keeping breakdancing culture alive in the UK.
You can't overstate how important they are to breaking culture. I would say globally, do you know what I mean? Like these weird guys from Bournemouth, do you know what I mean? Like they keep breaking after breaking's fucking dead, man. You know, like around 86, 87, it was the end. It was end game. These are the people that really, really kept it going when everybody wasn't interested.
This leads to the present day, where the Second to None crew is still breaking in this building here in Isaac's back garden in Bournemouth. Breakdancing went from the brink of extinction to the newest addition to the Olympics, taking place in Paris on the Place de la Concorde, 3,264 miles away from where it first originated in the Bronx. This comes as part of the IOC's plan to implement more urban sports into the Games, just like we saw with skating in the last Olympics in Tokyo. Rob Poutney, Chief Operating Officer for Breaking GB, hopes it will grow the sport.
Hopefully, you know, if you saw in Tokyo what Sky Brown and her medal did for skateboarding and young girls getting into skateboarding has just been meteoric. Hopefully we can have British breakers qualify for the Olympics and have some kind of similar trajectory in terms of picking up interest from people watching on TV and being taken seriously. You know, we've got breakers now being sponsored by major brands, that would never have happened without the Olympics.
One British breaker who was hoping to propel the sport into the mainstream by making an appearance at the Olympics is Emma Houston.
I go on and on like popcorn with the butter. Hey, yo, I used to stutter, but I fall on track. And some may say I'm whack and back, but in fact, I'm not any of that black. See, I'm the best kept.
I first started breaking when I was 15, and I watched You Got Served, which is an iconic street dance film made in America. After watching that film and then like kind of going down the YouTube rabbit hole of breaking, I found a class at, I'm from Stirling in Scotland, so I found a class at a place called the McRobert Arts Centre, and it was a street dance class that happened once a week, I think for an hour, taught by a guy called Martin Robinson, who was a London street dancer and contemporary dancer. So yeah, that's how it started.
The 31-year-old Scotswoman started her sporting career playing football, but moved to London 12 years ago to pursue a full-time career in breaking.
I moved to London in 2011 and I studied contemporary dance, but really it was always because I just wanted to be in London. And obviously, yeah, I wanted to study contemporary dance, but I also just wanted to be around the scene of breakers. And like where I was in Dundee, there was like 5 of us, and like I wanted to be around more people, you know, as much as I loved being in my little crew.
Houston's background in contemporary dance is something Pountney hopes will allow they to set themselves apart from other B-girls.
Emma's approach to breaking is one where she's using her skill set and experience as a performer in the theatre to her advantage. She's got good musicality and composure. I think some of these young girls in their teens that are coming through now have a lot of dynamic, powerful movement, and that is going to be the challenge for Emma to kind of compete with, balancing out the style and the personality with these bigger moves.
Houston is currently the #1 ranked British B-girl, making her the best hope to represent Team GB, along with 15 of the other best B-girls in the world in Paris.
It's crazy just to even think breaking's in the Olympics sometimes, you know what I mean? Because that wasn't really like on anyone's radar. You know, that's not why we started breaking or anything like that, you know? So it's just kind of like an unfathomable feeling, and it'll be obviously a great honour to represent.
The inclusion of breaking in the Olympics is not welcomed by all of the breaking community. There are fears the culture of graffiti and hip-hop music may be lost on the Olympic stage.
It's a dance first and foremost, so it's important that it doesn't just become an execution exercise of doing loads and loads of tricks and flips, even though that, you know, there is a chance that the Olympics will probably have a system that weighs execution of movement higher than the artistic level, and I think it's important that they remain in balance.
This is something Houston will be wary of when performing at the Games, wanting to show her dance as an art form and not lose that to the judging criteria.
I think my goals are like quite personal, so it's really about competition with myself and like hoping that people are moved and connect with what I do, and that's kind of more important. Like that's the most important thing to me, is that people feel me when I'm dancing, that I don't become like just a robot, you know, like it's not about the moves, it's like how I do it. So I hope that I can keep connecting to like my why when I dance.
Breaking GB was set up in 2021 when it was announced that breakdancing was going to be featured in the Olympics. This is the first recognised British governing body that supports breakers, and Pountney hopes to use it to give more opportunities to those in the sport and those who want to get involved.
What the imminent goals are obviously are to create training programs for the top breakers and the next generation of breakers in this country, so that we can continue to try to qualify for the Olympic Games in future, Paris and then LA in 2028. The wider ambitions for Breaking GB are to support the entire community of breakers in the UK, and to grow the scene, to build an infrastructure and kind of help create access points for young people that want to get into breaking following Paris 2024.
Medals for breaking will be contested by 16 B-boys and 16 B-girls on the 9th and 10th of August 2024. And history is assured to be made as the first breaking Olympic champions will be crowned, and there may even be a Team GB member on the podium.